I don't feel any better about it.
Well, he still got thrown out. I mean, that's the thing. And,
No,
and there's reports of the league going to rescind it today. We'll see if that happens. But even if they do,
ridiculous.
He got pulled from the game.
It's like the 2-minute report when they admit all their mistakes. But what does that really do? Fizz, you could tell you as a coach, I could tell you as a player, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? I think refs need to start being held more accountable. They need to be fined for situations like this because Draymond is the heart and soul of that team. And Golden State is someone that's going to be towards the middle or lower half in the playoff standing. So one game could really mean a lot. So you know how I already feel about refs. I got a long relationship with refs.
That may or may not be on
I got
the
a little
record.
history myself.
I mean, personally, I will say, and I know this is not the popular opinion, I like the 2-minute report because I also used to cover the NFL. And they used to make all kinds of officiating mistakes. And at least at the time I was covering the league, they would then just maintain silence or even just insist they hadn't made the mistake. And I don't know if you guys remember that Sports Illustrated cover where like one official's got his arms in the air signaling a touchdown and the other one had like no touchdown.
I agree. I want to know, but they need to be held accountable for it. Like, I think their grades, are their grades public?
So their grades, I don't think they're public. And obviously you can kind of track the assignments, the guys who get the better assignments.
Right.
But to your point,
there needs to be more
transparency.
And they need to be held accountable and they need to be fined because we're all tired of seeing this. No one comes to the games to watch the refs. They come to watch these amazing players. And too often the refs are something we're talking about when we should be talking about them.
Yeah. And look, especially when there's a common sense thing, if at halftime, an official walks up to Steve Kerr, which is what Steve said happened, and says, actually, yeah, we realized that was a mistake. Put Draymond in for the rest of the game.
Right.
Just use a little common sense and fix it on the spot. So as you say, it doesn't cost the team.
Yeah.
We will be following that. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols alongside our resident coach, David Fizdale, and NBA champ, Matt Barnes, who co-hosts All the Smoke with Steven Jackson. They won the iHeartMedia Award for Best Sports Podcast last night. We are impressed, proud, excited for you. If you haven't checked out All the Smoke, well, you're making a lot of mistakes in life.
You're snoozing.
Just saying. Coming up, guys, we're going to show you every bucket, every single one that Kobe dropped on this date, 2006, when he scored 81 against the Raptors. Stick around for that. First, though, here is a recap of last night's Lakers-Bucks showdown. Check this.
This, the only meeting of the season between LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Check my horoscope this morning. Said I was gonna win. Here's James. He had it deflected. Here's LeBron for 3. Giannis basket counts and a foul. I'm a win again. I'm a win. James knocks it down. The Lakers defeat the Bucks in Milwaukee.
So Lakers win 113-106. LeBron scored 34 points, 8 assists, 6 boards. Giannis scoring 25 points, 12 rebounds. Here's Dave McMenamin asking LeBron after the game about matching up against Giannis.
Is there any satisfaction in having success against Giannis? You're now 16-5. Your teams are 16-5 in your career against him, and he's 10 years younger than you, and he's the back-to-back MVP. Yet you're still able to find success.
Nah. I think you know me. I think all you guys know me. It's never been about individual. It's all about the team success, and that's all that matters. I can care less about that. I just try to play well and help our team win versus any opponent, and that's what it's all about.
So I will say later in that same press conference, one of the other reporters said, right, but you did say when Giannis beat you out for MVP, you were, quote, pissed off. So there has to be something there. I mean, you coached LeBron for a long time in Miami.
Yeah.
Do you buy him downplaying the rivalry talk?
It's not a rivalry.
Right.
I think there were too loosey-goosey with the word rivalry these days. When we were growing up, a rivalry was Magic and Bird. Dr. J.
And some blood had to be shed, too.
Come on, what are we talking about? That's not a rivalry yet. And so, LeBron is competing against history. Mm-hmm. So when he didn't get MVP, it was more thinking historically what I didn't get. It wasn't about Giannis beating him or anything like that. So, again, I think LeBron is looking at it. I think he's being honest. I'm looking at it from a legacy standpoint. I'm not looking at it as an individual competition. And it's not right now. Although Giannis is one of the great players in our league, he hasn't done enough to make this a rivalry. And it doesn't become a rivalry really to me until you get in the finals, really, and you start beating each other up.
At least the Eastern Conference Finals or something.
But not have to be a finals. And so they got to beat each other up in the finals a couple times before we start talking rivalry.
LeBron is here for one thing, and that's championships.
Yep. That's it.
Plain and simple. You know what I mean? I think The individual matchups are more for younger players chasing that throne. You know, when LeBron was coming up chasing Kobe, that was a big deal. And whether he admits it or not, it was. But LeBron is here for one reason. He can care less about who he's playing. The goal is to win, continue to improve, and be healthy for the finals. So he can care less about this. I agree with him.
No doubt about it.
No, it's fascinating. And look, when LeBron versus Steph, that felt like a rivalry, right? 5 years meeting.
Yeah,
right?
that's a rivalry.
That's a rivalry.
4 years meeting in the final, like all of that. I mean, that just felt.
But here's the crazy part. We're talking about a 36-year-old man.
Well, that's
insane, right? People are chasing him. He's not chasing.
Yeah,
he has nothing to prove with individual matchups at this point in his career. So.
Yeah.
Does Giannis have a rival right now?
That first or second round of the playoff. That's about it.
Wow.
Hey, look, you know, Matt, I can't say none of that. Matt Barnes is going to keep it as real as possible.
That is the realest
I can't follow
that. All right, guys, I want to switch gears because we got to talk about what's going on in Utah. The Jazz have won a league-best 7 straight games after beating the Pelicans last night, 129-118. Utah now tied for second place out west, just a half game behind the Lakers. So, Matt, is the NBA, are the casuals, as producer Danny says, sleeping on the Utah Jazz?
I don't think so. I think that the league knows that this is a very solid team, similar being built to how San Antonio was built, with just a solid coaching foundation, a solid organization, and players you can pull in and pull out. What I'm interested in watching is what Shaq said to Donovan Mitchell last night. And some people took it negative. The competitor in me took it as a challenge.
Yes.
Like, Donovan Mitchell is going to be on a mission the rest of the season. The rest of the league better look out. I think he's going to continue his great play, but I think in order for them to advance through the playoffs, they need one more consistent 20 to 25 point score to match up with Mitchell. But I think Mitchell's going to be on a tear now.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing is the first time this is a healthy Utah Jazz team. They got all their bullets right now, and you know that the addition of Mike Conley that we didn't really get to see get going, Bogdanovich, all of these guys now, and you know, Denver is looking a little shaky, and Utah filled that slot quick.
Yep.
And so, you know, in the West, it can move fast. So it's going to be interesting to see how Denver responds in this season. But I'm telling you what, you got bona fide superstar Donovan Mitchell, and the fact that they signed Rudy Gobert and they solidified that duo, I think that really built a lot of camaraderie and confidence in the overall team, and knowing that we're moving forward with these guys and everybody else filling your roles.
Shout out to Quinn Snyder. He's been doing a great job.
Awesome. Like I said, he's the one coach who I think is a great coach, and I want to hang out with him. That's my guy. He is the coolest.
He was assistant coach with the Lakers when I played for the Lakers. Great guy.
Great guy.
And look, there's teams, all sorts of teams are going to tweak right around and before the trade deadline. Maybe the top contenders like the Lakers or the Clippers would do that too. But it's teams like the Jazz, teams like the Nuggets that I'm watching to see, do they want to add that next piece, right? If Bradley Beal becomes available, what would that look like on a couple of those kinds
Zach
of teams?
LaVine. People are sleeping on Zach LaVine. He's another big scorer.
Yep, absolutely. So that's another one to watch too, is teams are ascending, a team like the Jazz that wins 7 straight, and suddenly the front office starts thinking, all right, we got something that could actually challenge for a title if we just tweak, and there we go.
Health.
All right, sad news today. Henry Lewis, Hank Aaron, the longtime home run king of Major League Baseball, is dead at the age of 86. Hammerin' Hank broke Babe Ruth's home run record in April 8th, 1974, in spite of so many threats made against his life by racists who did not want to see a black man pass the Babe. Aaron finished with 755 career home runs, which stood as the Major League record until Barry Bonds broke it in 2007. You can all have your opinions about that. Aaron still holds Major League records for RBIs, total bases, extra base hits, and he ranks among MLB's best in hits, games played, runs scored, and boy, does he top out in every stat that measures class. He was enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1982. In 1999, Major League Baseball created the Hank Aaron Award, given annually to the best hitter in both the AL and the NL. And in 2002, Aaron was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Matt, what do you think of when you think about the legacy of Hank Aaron?
All he went through, and kind of where society is right now. You know, obviously this morning when I heard of his passing, I was sad. So I just kind of started reading up on stuff and started reading some of the letters he would see. They said he would receive about 3,000 letters a day filled with just hate. And it was just incredible for him to be able to turn the other shoulder and continue on the path he was on, inspiring so many people like us to want to, you know, do better.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, he went through that. He took the hits for us.
Yep.
We're not sitting here today without people like Hank Aaron, who really went through, got called the N-word so much it became normal.
Right.
Had so many threats on his life, it became normal. And through all of that, he personified greatness and class. And he is such a guy to look up to. A baseball on a stand, but I love some Hank Aaron as a kid.
Hammer and Hank.
Right, and so it's a huge loss, especially for the black community, for young black people, and for young guys that don't know about Hank and his story. I recommend you do just what Matt did and read up and learn some more, because you're going to get some jewels in that.
It really is just such a demonstration of grace, of course, but also perseverance. And we think now about hate, quote unquote, and everyone's kind of like Twitter hate, and people get dozens or hundreds of sort of tweets at them a day or something like that. We know that Kevin Durant sort of processes those in a certain way. This was a different time. This was the early 70s. So you were getting people who had not just like fired off a tweet on their phone while they're waiting at the grocery store, actually sat down, took pen to paper, wrote a letter about how much they hate you, your family, your children, and your teammates. And some of those letters, as you said, were threatening to kill him at a time where people were being picked off and killed because of, I was going to say at a time because of their race. We certainly had plenty of examples of that since then. But when we talk about the high profile Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Kennedy's, there's no reason for Hank Aaron not to think that when he got one of those letters, the next bullet was coming for him, and he persevered with, again, the grace that I wish we could all have in every situation.
Imagine that mental health, being able to try to block that out and focus every single game and go out and be great.
Yeah, that's amazing to me.
Amazing. An example for us all. We will miss you. All right, guys, coming up, we certainly miss Kobe Bryant as well, and this is the anniversary of the night he dropped 81 on this date in 2006. We are going to show you every single bucket. First, though, here's what the Jump recommends for today. George Sedano interviewed some of the best defenders of Kobe's generation to find out what it was like guarding the Black Mamba. Tony Allen said he was a deer in headlights first time he matched up with Kobe. It's a great read. Go check it out. We will be back.
Get stealing, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun, Ric Flair. Woo!
Woo! That portrait over his left shoulder, by the way, is amazing. Matt, you need one of those over your shoulder when you do all the smoke. Make bombs away. Lakers Bucks late in the fourth. LeBron beats the shot clock to ice the game. Fizz, the progression since you coached him in Miami, since 2011, when the Mavs strategy was make him shoot.
Right.
How would you say he's progressed since then?
Oh, ridiculous.
Pray he misses.
Great. That's what you hope for, that he's taking those shots, but now he's so poised, there's no pressure on him. He just lets this stuff fly, and it's nothing.
There's nothing you can do when he's hitting those kind of shots.
It's over.
Because he's already going to get everything else.
Right. And it's a great example to me, too, about how guys in the league can improve their shot. I mean, LeBron's not the only one.
36.
He's the most high-profile one.
He's added so much stuff to this game.
Just changes everything, and it's why he's able to do what he can do at 36 years old. Miss help. Second quarter now. Bron collects and passes way up the court. The ball gets tipped and goes in. Drew Holiday raises his hand, but I don't know. Who should get credit for the bucket, guys? What do you think?
Drew Holiday. The person that chipped it in.
First one with his hand up. That was the rule, right?
That should be -2 on his point.
Right? And there you go.
But it ain't going good.
My bad. Make resistance. Both Antetokounmpo brothers came up with a big block last night. So we've got Giannis on LeBron.
Okay.
And then Thanasis on AD. So, Matt, do we know how to say rejection in Greek?
No, I don't. That's big and long. But just imagine how cool it is playing with your brother. Like, that's got to be just the coolest experience
Absolutely.
you can have.
I was in the bubble, and we sat down with all three brothers who were in the bubble, which is incredible. Fourth brother, of course, overseas. And they were playing Uno, and the competitiveness off.
Can you imagine those fights at a young age?
It's another one, too.
Whooping each other. Yeah.
The kid played for the Lakers, right?
Yes.
Could you imagine that battle going?
Yes.
Oh, man.
But they were pulling out all the stops. They were tricking each other. They were trying to mislead. It was
all
not
things
good.
was on the table.
We're now learn how to say rejection in Greek. That's lovely. Jump in an educational program.
I love it.
Missing Knicks Warriors. Check out this ridiculous lefty behind the back pass by Steph to Draymond.
Gotta hit it if it's a highlight. highlight. There it is.
So do you think there's extra pressure? Matt, if you get this great dime, do you feel like, okay, I got to do it?
Yes, I tricked one off one time when I was on Lob City. Blake did an amazing behind-the-back pass and threw it to me, but CP was open in the corner. I threw it to CP. He threw it right back to me. Then I hit it, but it was still a highlight because the pass was so amazing. So, yes, there's extra pressure when they get a great pass. You got to make it.
You got to pay it off, baby.
And especially when you wide.
And those are the hardest shots to make, too, when you're wide open.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, we now move on to the anniversary of one of the most incredible performances in NBA history. On this date, 15 years ago, Kobe Bryant scored 81 against the Raptors. So let's run it back,
Put on your seatbelt, folks.
Hey, the Rose, turn your TV off for 3 minutes.
Gotten even closer to that, and that's Mr. Booker, right? Mr. Booker has 70 points in the game. So he's shown the ability to get it going. But I think it's other guys.
There's a handful. I got a little list. So I got a list.
Let me see your list over there.
I got KD, Steph, Harden, Klay Thompson, and Damian Lillard and Devin Booker. I think the only one probably able to do it now because I think Harden and KD will cross each other out. I think either Dame, Booker, or Steph can do it.
Because they're going to have that ball.
They're going to have the ball the whole time, yeah.
But, I think the interesting name in that group, which people sleep on, is Klay.
Klay,
because he gets it done with
a 63 and 3/4.
Great. Well, okay, so
and he had the ball for a minute and 40 seconds.
With like 11 dribbles. But that's my question for you, Matt, because you were inside that locker room during that time, and I remember specific times where those guys, Klay or Steph, would be heating up 3/4, they'd get 60-something or whatever it was, and everyone would be like, Steve, leave them in.
Let him go, yeah.
And he never did.
Yeah,
did the guys ever want him to?
Well, I wasn't on the teams when they got super, super hot like that, but I can imagine that. And as a fan and someone in the league at the time, I was mad. Like, yo, let him go. Like,
Keep him
see
in.
what
Let
he
him
can
go.
do.
Let him go.
Break a record.
All right, coming up next, we are going to open up the stat market. Are we going to buy or sell Paul George's chances of joining the exclusive 50-40-90 club? He's actually shooting 50-50-90 right now. Stick around. We will discuss. 50-50-90.
Making it look easy.
50-50-90.
That's what I like.
That's insane. And from three-point range, as well as 91% from the free throw line. You are looking at a list of players to achieve a 50-40-90 season because 50-50-90 is too absurd. We don't have a list for that. So, Zach, are you buying or selling? We'll set the bar at 50-40-90 for Paul George. Zach, you got me?
Well, I can tell you right now what I think.
Go.
Yes. I think this guy is he's got like a chip on his shoulder after all of that preseason talk. And you can see it. Look at how he goes to the basket. We was talking about the way he attacks the rim. It's like,
PG.
I dare you to jump.
Yep.
Because I'm going to posterize you.
Yeah.
And he's not leaving without a foul or a bucket or both. And that is the PG that people have been worrying about, especially with that team and the way that T. Lue is utilizing them. I really think he can stay on track to hit that landmark.
Yeah, I think if anything, maybe to 45, but I think it'll be higher than 40. And he's on a mission. He came on the podcast earlier this season. He looked in the camera and said what he was going to do. But to be honest, the only way to kind of forget everything is to do this in the playoffs.
That's all it's about.
And I believe he will. He really was big on the last year before. He didn't get a chance to have any kind of training camp workouts because he's coming off 2 bad shoulders. So this year he got a full for what it could be, time to work out. And he's definitely, coming back for names this year.
I love his attitude this year. I love that it started with taking accountability because I think people needed to hear that from him. And he needed to do that for himself. He's a high character guy. He needed to do that. And then to go out and say, I know I got to prove it to people. Watch me
do it.
I love it. All right, we don't have Zach Lowe right now, but we do have Zach LaVine scoring 5th in the league and scoring 27.5 points per game. Only Brad Beal, KD, Steph Curry, and Dame are averaging more. So, Coach Fizz, do you buy or sell him finishing in the season in the top 5?
I'm either going to be a rich man or I'm going broke because I'm buying. This dude is a walking bucket. I think there's no question about it. This guy scores in his sleep. The next shot is his best shot. That's how he looks at it. And he is hard to keep away from getting to the shots that he likes. And so the way that coach is using him out there, I can easily see him being a top 5 scorer.
Absolutely. And I'm buying as well. And he can get it however you want it. He's someone that attacks the basket too, can get it off the post, can get it off his mid-range, can get it off his 3. And like Bradley Beal, he's someone at the trade deadline that could be a big piece that helps one team get over the hump.
Well, that to me is going to be the key on whether he stays in the top 5 in scoring or not. If he doesn't get traded, he has a chance to stay in the top 5 in scoring. Right. If he gets traded to join a contender, you have to think then some of those numbers will adjust.
Where do you go to school?
He'll sacrifice. UCLA.
Oh, I'm just checking.
He was a quick in and out, but he was definitely there.
He's a Bruin, though.
It counts.
This guy, no, he's serious business. When it comes to scoring, this guy is serious business. And, man, do I love it when he gets a breakaway. He is exciting.
I also appreciate the way he's approached the game, approached some, frankly, difficult years in Chicago, even with coaches maybe who didn't come in respecting all of the players. He tried to work with every coaching staff he's been handed. He's doing well with Billy Donovan right now, so props to him for all of that. All right, lastly, let's go to the Lakers, who allowed the fewest points per 100 possessions of any team in the league. So, Matt, do you buy or sell the Lakers having the best defense in the league all through the season?
I'm buying everything today.
Yeah, we're going to either be rich or broke, baby.
You guys are going to hold stock, and we're going to check back with you.
And the one thing about the Lakers is they're an older team, so it's not so much about that one-on-one lockdown defender they have. They have great team defense, and Fizz will tell you that's very important to have placement, rotation, talking, everyone playing as hard as they possibly can, and that's what makes you a number one team defensively. So I'm definitely buying this.
Now, he said it as well as you can say it. This team's connected. They got veteran guys that you're not going to trick ever. And the thing that stands out to me the most about them is their role players really get after you.
They know their role.
Like they pick you up. They climb up in you. They're getting deflections. They really communicate. You're talking about Bron, who never shuts up. Marc Gasol, one of the great. He's a defensive player of the year. Right? You got Montrezl Harrell back there who can bark. And so AD, these guys are connected, and I think that they want to be the best team in the league. The only thing that's going to stop them is if they keep blowing teams out and they don't play in the fourth quarter. That's it. Because otherwise, I think they're definitely going to be, if not one, right up there at the top. So I'm buying.
They'll be top 5 regardless, but I think 1 is where they can stay just depending on the course of the season. It's a long season, so their goal is to stay healthy and be ready for the playoffs. So that means sitting people or blowouts, whatever it may be. They may slide a little bit.
They make you take the ball out of the net. Number 2 in second chance points, 8th in points in the paint. They break every time when they get the ball, so they always set their defense. So that's what makes them miserable to play against.
And to me, this is where, of course, approach and talent meet. And look, the Lakers, when they got together as a team at the beginning of last year during training camp, we looked at their individual defensive numbers, and even LeBron. I mean, it was not great going into last season.
We got some clips of him shortcutting, don't give me.
And so there were questions about how they could defend, especially perimeter defense, and those were fair considering what those guys had done going into that season. Now, they, of course, had AD coming in. That's a huge different presence inside. But they committed to team defense in a way we frankly hadn't seen most of those guys do in previous seasons. And they, from day one, LeBron came in from day one.
Said this is what it's going to be about.
This is what it's going to be.
But here's the other thing that we're not talking about, and I know sometimes this gets lost in the shuffle because they're so talented and so great. Frank Vogel is one of the best defensive coaches in this league.
You are right.
It was a nightmare playing against him out in Indiana all of those years. It was like playing in mud, and now he's got a supercharged offense team to go along with those defensive principles. So you got to give him and the staff credit as well to really get this team engaged enough. Night in, night out to compete on the defensive end, and now you see where they stand.
Matt, is this the model for the Nets?
Yes. Piece by piece, coming together. And I want to add on to what you said, because Vogel took a lot of heat coming in. Everyone, this is Jason Kidd's team, or this is LeBron's team, this is that, and Vogel Vogel just sat back. He's applied what he knows best, and he's gotten out the way and letting these guys create with it, and that's what good coaches do.
Yep, absolutely. Amen to that. Interesting to watch them. All right, guys, that's the closing bell. The stat market closed for the day. We will be back with another edition soon, and Fizz and Matt don't have anything in their wallet. Zach, unfortunately, behind Embiid's monster 42-point performance. And then afterward, Embiid and Marcus Smart traded, let's call them some verbal jabs after the game, allegations of flopping. Which, of course, you can imagine you get into a conversation about flopping with Marcus Smart. That's fun. Fizz, is this scheduling tweak we have during coronavirus where teams play each other? We're seeing a lot of sort of back-to-backs, even though they're separated by a night of teams. It used to be like, we got to circle the date in March when these teams meet again. It's like tomorrow or tonight.
I like it. I like it a lot because especially for reasons like this. When that first game is chippy and competitive and go down to the wire and it gets a little confrontational, well, you can't hide or talk mess and think that it's all going to go away because it's coming right back the next day. So I'm looking forward to seeing this game and how competitive it gets. But I really like the schedule the way it is. It's been fun to watch.
But situations like this make it must-watch TV. You know what I mean? Like, you're not, like I said, I don't have to wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months to see you. I'm going to see you in a couple of days. So back up what you were talking about. You know, so I mean, it's going to be that energy is going to be at a high level. And those are just two good competitors. I don't know if you want to talk about Flop, and I love Marcus Smart, but that's part of his game and his DNA.
He talks about.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? So, but I've been on that side where you've played a great player and he's taken more free throws than our whole team.
Yes,
so
which is what happened.
Right. There's some frustration there, and I get it. But like I said, you're getting to see him again tonight. So instead of, if he's going to flop, make sure he earns it. Give him a hard one.
Here, let me just ask this. You can't really say what you want to say about flopping, though, can you?
No, I hate it. I hate it.
You can say that.
No, but not what he really.
You got to tune into all the smoke. You can see how I hate
A
flopping.
little more cursing allowed there, okay? Cable on Showtime in the podcast. I'm just saying. There you go. I mean, look, I don't know how much, too, you have your boys in your ear. Like, I mean, I think right after there's a little confrontation. I'm not even talking about Marcus and Embiid, by the way, because there was no on-court confrontation there. But we've gotten to see with these, like, pseudo back-to-backs that guys kind of get into a little bit.
I love it.
And then, Matt, what is it like for the next 24 to 48 hours?
You can't wait. You can't wait. Like I said before, you would have to wait and you would cool down.
Right, I was going to say.
You don't get no cool down now. You know what I mean? So like
way.
I said, all those is just a verbal back and forth. These guys are both still going to be ready. Their teams are going to have their back, so it's going to make it funner. But like I said, I love the fact that you're going to have to back up what you were just talking about in 24 hours, not 2 months.
Yeah, it does.
And this gets a little bit of the edge back a little too, because in the bubble, guys were doing this kind of stuff and then getting on buses to go back to the same hotel and the same elevators. Here, you got that animosity still.
Some eras you couldn't do that, like the 80s, 90s. You couldn't get on the bus.
That would have been a fight.
Be a whole fight.
They would have flipped the bus over.
It's going to be a whole fight.
Very bad.
No way.
Liz, how much do you do adjustments differently when you're seeing a team right all over again 48 hours later?
You make some slight tweaks.
Okay.
Obviously, you got to make some, but you still have to stay true to what you do and what you do well. But you definitely got to make a quick adjustment. And that's the reason I really like this back-to-back schedule is because you can really simulate playoff situations.
There you go.
Right?
Yep.
I used to tell my teams when we played a team back-to-back, look, Game 6, Game 7, we got to have both of them to win the series.
Right.
And I would just get them in that mindset. And I think this gives coaches a lot of opportunities to start to simulate playoff situations.
That's really interesting.
And back-to-backs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. Up next, stick with us. We're going to look ahead to another rematch game from earlier this week when the Nets take on the Cavaliers. Are we going to get a 140-point game again? First, though, time for our second distant replay of the day. This